Today we talk about how to have pufferfish moments.
A tool to add in your game to improve the roleplay at the table. Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to Roleplay Chat.
And welcome... No, that's not what I do. I usually say, we're two game masters who can't stop talking about role-playing games.
And today we talk about the pufferfish.
Oh man, I'm really excited about this episode, guys, because this is a fantastic tool. Although it sounds silly, it kind of is silly, but it improved our roleplay at our table so much that we thought, we have to talk about this.
Yes, and we're gonna call those things pufferfish and pufferfish moments. It's just because that's what I had on hand when we decided to implement this thing. We just need tokens.
They're so cute. Can you guys see that?
They're put in the dryer and they help puff. It's not important. We call them pufferfish. So what is a pufferfish moment, or how do we use them?
Yeah, before we get too into it, I just want to give you guys the usual disclaimer. This is the long conversation. Mm-hmm. This is the deep dive. So the conversation is kind of going to be unstructured as usual, but we're going to dig into it. And by the end of this, you guys are going to have a full explanation about what the pufferfish moment is, how it improves your game, and really, ultimately why you should use it and why we think you should make it a part of your gaming experience.
At least try it.
Try it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Give us the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Yeah, this one it starts weird, but trust us.
So yeah, sorry to cut you off. You were saying.
Yeah, definition, right? What is this weird pufferfish moment? So pufferfish moment is a moment, it's a scene of roleplay that happens during the game. Some roleplay, some group of people are always in character.
Yeah.
We're not that group. Our group, by default, talk a little bit out of character and sometimes go in character mode. This is character mode.
Yeah, they're essentially talking sticks. They're dual talking sticks that we can use to indicate to the other players and have a scene with another player. So if there's, we'll get into, how and when we use them and opportunities to use them. But at the base level, these two pufferfish, you'll place them in front of somebody else in the middle of combat, in front of a monster, whatever, to create a scene where you engage with that person alone. And it kind of creates this understanding with everybody else at the table. Please don't interrupt us. Please don't enter to this conversation unless you have something really big to bring, because we're having a moment, we're having a scene, the camera is on us right now.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? It's controlling the camera. The game master often says, okay, we're fading out or we're fading in. You see this, does the narration. Well, this is a way for the player to basically take control of the camera and say, look at me or look at that person. We're having a scene. Everything is kind of shuts down a little bit. Obviously, you said in the middle of combat. We do that in the middle of combat, but it needs to be really short because otherwise it doesn't make sense. But it's more about something happened.
An event in game.
An event in game. An NPC sends something that your character, let's say your map and you're playing Diedrich, and he has this inner dialogue. It's like, oh, Diedrich doesn't like what this NPC just said and wants to exteriorize it and wants to talk to another player. Well, as the game master, I have really no way of knowing that I should stop moving forward with the story, or the other players don't know they should stop talking about other things. Mm-hmm. So the way Matt indicates to the other player that he wants to put a little pause there to talk about his reaction to what just happened is this. It's the talking stick. It's everybody listen
to me and the other person I'm engaging with. So I think that covers it for pretty well. So now we're going to obviously get into dig deeper into this. I'm having a hard time. But I think it's important for us to talk to you a little bit about why we did it.
Mm-hmm. So I think we hear often game masters say, I want my players to roleplay more, right?
Or you listen to actual play podcasts or things like Critical Role, and you see this professional grade acting, and it's hard not to say, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was at that level.
Yeah, and obviously there's different ways to play that game, but I'm a big fan of Critical Role, and I would be like, I think we can incorporate this, and I would always notice they're really good at listening to when to shut up and have Travis interact with Marisha, and they have a scene and when to come in, and they're trained for it. They're trained actors.
Yeah.
So what can I do as a game master, or what can we do together, mainly, to create a structure where this happens without having someone to be like, everybody, I want to have this scene, and like it kind of creates a problem. So one of our player, actually, Vince, proposed talking sticks. I think that's the way he put it.
Honestly, I remember we were at a campfire, we had a couple of beers, we're talking about role-playing games because we just can't, like I said, can't stop talking about it. And we were kind of like, talking sticks? We're not in grade school, like we don't need a talking stick. Why? But we kind of...
I think we dismissed it for that weekend, and then I remember we were on a couch in my house after a game, and he brought it up again, and we were like, you know what, there's no cost of just trying it. So the next game before the game, I was looking for something for some kind of totem, like I didn't have a stick, and I wanted two of them of a similar shape, but that were kind of not too small, so I grabbed those, and from now on it's called Pufferfish Moment. I could craft like new tokens, but it's just
it just stuck, and now these two pufferfish kind of have a permanent living space on our game table for that exact moment, for us to have pufferfish moments with other players. So I know it sounds silly. We dismissed it originally. You're probably saying, there's no way I'm going to do this. I've been playing role-playing games for 10, 15, however many years. I don't need this. But I would ask you to give it a try anyway. You might be surprised to the added benefits, and we're actually going to talk about some of the added benefits that this kind of mechanism provides as we get into the video. But I think that covers how we incorporate, or how we started incorporating this in our table, right, Chris?
The last thing I would say, to just visualize everything in your mind, I like to say this is like rolling initiative for roleplay. This is what stops, and you change the structures. It's a clear indicator. So see it as rolling initiative for roleplay.
So what's the next thing we wanted to talk about? We wanted to talk about... I guess I said we were going to talk about it later. Later is now. So let's talk about the results that we've found that this very simple mechanism, the Pufferfish Moment, has had in our games.
I mean, the main one is spotlight management. Like, often it's about who gets to talk when, and I have my thing to say, you have your thing to say. Everybody has their own thing to say, and it's this way really puts a structure and controls the spotlight, and it changes how we roleplay as a group.
Yeah, it really... And in a very concrete way, right? Like, it's one thing to talk like in a very nebulous way about, let's manage spotlight, let's try to keep track of who's at the center stage when, and who likes it and who likes it less. But like Chris said, we're not professional actors, so it's hard for us to always capture the signals that the other players at the table are trying to send. So, when you grab the two pufferfish that are in the middle of the table and you give it to somebody else, everybody, without even saying anything, our table knows, okay, let's stop the crosstalk. Now is not my time to shine. It's the time for the two people with the pufferfish to shine. And you share the spotlight in the sense that one person doesn't just keep having over and over pufferfish moments. But
the person that's on the receiving end of the pufferfish knows that they also have something to, like, they're not just there for the other person, they're also there to talk about how their character is evolving too. So it's really a one-on-one, but both have a part to play. So
another result that I really like about having the pufferfish is that it gives this clear statement to the people that are acting in this scene that you're acting. I know it can be hard as a person to disassociate yourself from your character. Sometimes, we say, oh, don't take things personally, blah, 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 but it's easier said than done. But when you have these pufferfish, it's very obvious, or at least to us at our table, it's become obvious that we're acting, it's a scene, the opinion that I'm expressing in this scene is not mine, it's my character's. And it kind of creates this micro environment for those emotions to live in. And then when you're out of the pufferfish moment, you can not relax, but the emotions that you were living in that maybe potentially dramatic moment or that extremely like happy moment can be self-contained. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
I think you are. Well, maybe
I know we live like that.
yeah, I know what you mean. So, yeah. For me, another thing that's not negligible is, as the game master of that game, it removes a weight off my shoulders. Because I don't have to be like, and I mentioned that a couple of times, I would create a situation where clearly characters are being affected by this and they should be reacting to it. And I would have to be like, well, let's say Dietrich, how do you feel about this? And maybe you would say, someone else would say something. And after that, you might build a scene. But right now, it takes the weight off my shoulders. And the responsibility is now the players to start those scenes. And I can just lay back and just watch what's happening. And I have had great moments of just like Pufferfish Moment. It tells me, you're off the hook while we're having this discussion. That's when I take notes. That's when I'm listening to.
And I mean, I think we can build on that. It doesn't only take you off the hook, but because there's this platform where the two player characters are interacting, there's gonna be development of their backstory. You're gonna learn, everyone at the table, including the other players, are gonna learn something about these characters, something they care about, their reaction to an event in game, their feelings, or maybe they're not, like, their lack thereof feelings. So it gives a platform for this stuff to come out, and then the game master or other players can take that and run with it and do other things later down the road.
Yeah, by doing that, it really created a lot of more links. And as people are listening to one Pufferfish Moment, they think of all the other Pufferfish Moment they could have with those people, depending on what just happened. So the roleplay becomes, it builds and builds and builds, and the complexity gets more and more intense. I
know we had a video, several videos, some short ones and a long one, about player engagement. We briefly talked about the Pufferfish Moments there, but these two things really go hand in hand, because the Pufferfish Moments allow you to engage with other players in a very concrete way. What are some of the other things we talk about?
We noticed something about pillar changes. That's basically what I said with rolling initiative. Like, you can start being, let's say you're adventuring, you're exploring. This is when you're like, okay, I'm no longer rolling notice check and lock picking checks or whatever. I'm role playing.
Yeah.
So you can change those pillars, and that's for the role play. And also keep in mind that you take them to put in front of you to say, we start the scene, but when you're done with the scene, you can put them back in the middle. And it's how to close, because sometimes that's a big thing also.
And honestly, it has been something that we've learned over time, when a scene is kind of not interesting anymore.
Dying out,
it's like the meat of the conversation is done. So we've come to this conclusion that when someone is done, I have one, when I'm done saying what I intended to bring forward, I'll kind of put my pufferfish away. You can maybe keep going and maybe
still engage with you and everything. And then when I'm done, I put it down, and this is a natural closing of the scene. It's a fade to black or a fade to another scene, and it feels organic, even though there's this kind of it feels like it should be in the way, but really it's the opposite.
Yeah. And I know I keep going back to this, but these are things that you can kind of lean on, right? Like, if you want to get better at not improv, at role play or at engaging your game or managing spotlight, this gives you kind of a very concrete thing. But I think I'm starting to sound like a broken record. So let's go on to something that this does very well is if certain players at your table have call them weaknesses, things that they want to improve, like role play, like managing spotlight. If this is stuff that someone at your table is having trouble with, this might be a solution to that.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just I don't know when it's my time to talk, when it's not my time to talk, when it's my time to not talk, I should say. And this is clearly an indicator, right? So it's another tool in your toolbox, and it's a really helpful one.
Something that we didn't note down, Chris, but something that I really like, or we kind of did, but not explicitly, is that this has a kind of a direct association, or I kind of associate it a lot to entering and exiting a scene in an improv scene. I'm not sure if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't know if I think probably not a lot of people take improv class, but when you do improvisation, there's usually like a theme and two teams. Well, where we come from, we have like a league of this, right? So there's two teams and there's a scene, and you don't know who's going to be part of the scene, but the person needs to like walk into the scene or onto the stage, and you don't even know who's going to come with you, but then you start a scene, you improvise a scene, right? So that's when you're sitting around the table, you can't really walk on the scene, right? There's nothing to indicate it. Now there is.
Yeah, there is now.
Was that where you
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah, it kind of does that. So we talked a lot about the results. Maybe let's add a little bit of a personal touch. This is usually what we do when we do the long one. What do you like the most out of Pufferfish Moments, Chris?
For me, it's
personally
what happened the moment we started doing this. People, I feel like players at my table felt like they had agency over their interactions, where I think they used to wait for me to give them the right to talk. Now they can take the right to talk. And they could even engage with me if they want to talk to, I don't know if we want to talk, no, let's talk about that later. But so they take agency over their interaction, and that multiplied by a factor of 10 the amount of role play I had on my table, like instantly. So that tells me that it's not that my players don't want to role play. It's not that they're not able to role play. It's they didn't have the right structure or the right medium to do it. And this just destroyed the wall that I didn't even know was there.
Okay, cool.
What about you? What did you like?
I mean, I really liked it because I like roleplay. And oftentimes I wasn't sure when I had permission to do it. And maybe it kind of connects to what you're saying. But and we say, we set up the pufferfish and then we dive right in, but it's not really that. It's more like we set the pufferfish up. Like I'll take one, I'll give one to let's say Chris in this example, and then whatever's happening is gonna conclude, and then the camera zooms to us. So it kind of is like a flag to everybody at the table saying like, oh, you know what? I have something that I really want to bring forward. When you're done, please let me have my opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it could be raising your hand, like to start. But the thing is, we like the fact that you can use it to also end the scene. But it's basically you're at school, you raise your hand, you wait to have the right to talk, but then you're on the stage, you get to talk, you get to say your piece. But this is kind of a cooperative process.
And it really makes it cooperate. Like when we introduced this at our table, everyone was on board. Everyone's like, that's so cool. And it was around the same time as we were talking a lot about being fans of each other, being gift giving, which is again not a term we coined. I forget who mentioned it, but it essentially means, don't just enter a scene or role play for the purpose of for selfish purposes. We're telling a story together. We're building a story collaboratively. So usually, actually, when I would make a pufferfish moment, it was not for my own character's benefit. It was something happened in the game. Let's say a ghost appeared and really appeared to scare someone. Well, I took note of that. And then when the ghost disappeared, I would take a pufferfish, give it to the other person and say, oh, you look shaken. What's going on? What's wrong? I mean, ghosts are scary, but not that scary. And then it helped point the spotlight and give that other character or person this reinforcement that look, your feelings that your character is going through, I want to hear them. I care about them. It's okay to vocalize them.
So that's a great point, because it's not only to take agency, but you can actually help someone get into his character or her character, and that's a big thing. And another thing, like as you mentioned, being fan of other players, I found that after a little while, what would happen sometimes is something would trigger, and clearly that would make, let's say, Randall and Otis. It's about a link they have, and I've seen, let's say, Vince say, "Oh wow, I'm very interested in seeing how Otis and Randall will interact with just what happened." He would literally take the pufferfish and put them in front of two other people as if showing, please show me what's happening. And that encouraged other people to role play their scene. So that's another use. And you were kind of right now in deviations, the different ways to use them.
Yeah, so maybe now's the time to enter that.
So there's can be that, but that you need to have the
consent
of someone else. And it's something maybe I'd like to mention before we go into different deviation is, for me in my system, we use the fate points, which gives you bonuses. I tend to give those for really good role playing, and that created a lot of occasions that I could actually give those tokens, because people, it kind of feels like an audition to me when you take the pufferfish and you have this scene. I'm listening, and if I go, wow, this was very cool, you get a point. It could be inspiration, for example, in the
equivalent to inspiration. Yeah. So we talked about the basic version where there's just two characters talking to each other with Pufferfish Moments, having a spotlight. The next step, I guess, is for us to talk a little bit about. Should we talk about deviation, or maybe talk about integration? Into, like, if you guys want to bring this into your game, what do you think we should talk about first?
Well, I think we were kind of talking about deviation already.
Okay, so let's keep talking about that.
So we talked about the putting in front of someone else, and also closing the scenes, putting them back in the middle. That's kind of deviations.
Something that we also started trying to do, I'm not sure we're perfectly there yet, but using it as a signal to help indicate to other people at the table that your character has something to say. So, before I was talking about being gift giving, but what about if there's an internal monologue that your character is having about their emotions? Let's use an example, like maybe you just saw an execution in the public square, and your character has this backstory where their parents were executed, and you haven't had the opportunity to bring that forward yet. You could just like act kind of fidgety or scared or whatever, but people might not pick up on that. So if you were to want to express that, you grab a pufferfish, you put it, like, you make it obvious that you're grabbing it, you put it in front of yourself, and you wait for someone else at the table to engage you. It doesn't matter who. At this point, you don't care who.
Yeah.
You just want someone to listen, to what you have to say.
Yeah, and you can even continue to act fidgety, as you said, but now that you have the pufferfish, it's an indication of people to the other people around the table that the way I'm acting right now, please engage with me on this.
Yeah. And people might do it naturally, and you might not need, hopefully someone notices that and then grabs them and gives them one you won. But like I said, we're not professional actors. I'm sure most of you aren't either. So this could be a cool way to do it.
Yeah. We've been talking about dual talking sticks or pufferfish moments. Obviously, there's no reason to stop at 2. It just becomes a little bit more unwieldy. So we're actually toying with the idea now that to have like a third one so that we can have 3 people seen. But you have to, again, then it becomes tricky. It's a bit trickier. Usually what we have is like 2 main character having a scene and someone else who's acting in support, because you don't want to like have all those cross talking. So but it would be possible to have more than 2, right? We had seen the other day in a game, I think we're 5 people. It was a group pufferfish moment, which is not a pufferfish moment, but it was a group talking, but everything was still structured, so it was fine.
One thing that I think I would like to try to do actually is, if we continue to lean in on how French Canadian improv seasons or games work, usually what might happen is, let's say there's 2 people talking, they're having a pufferfish moment, and a third person enters the scene with an idea. That person doesn't just burst in and runs in with their idea. They will step into the rink, into the arena, or whatever, into the scene, and stay in the background. They're just going to stand there, and they basically wait for the other 2 people to engage them. They say, "Okay, we're done.
having our kind
we're
of private.
happy, yeah, we're happy concluding our private conversation right now to allow you to participate. So maybe that, I mean, we haven't even explored this, but maybe that could be an interesting way to do it. You know, if you have multiple pufferfish, or you have a moment, and if someone else thinks they can bring something to the table, they could bring a pufferfish and say, you see my character kind of walk up, sit down at the table, and drink their beer attentively, or whatever. And that kind of opens the door to allowing the two other people who are in a private conversation to engage that character.
Yeah, again, the way is just a clear indicator of the willingness of engaging in a role play scene. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that idea.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Another thing is monologues. So we have a player against Vince Ludolf who plays someone who will do maybe speech to be the leader and inspire everybody. Well, sometimes as one character talks in a big voice, some people might not pay attention. I mean, a monologue would mean I grab both of them, right? Or just one, and nobody needs to pick up the other one. And so that could be one way to do it, is using those just to, again, bring the spotlight on you and not necessarily engage someone else. It's not about role play now, but
it's kind of role play.
It is role play, but sorry, it's not interactive role play necessarily.
No,
people can still react, obviously.
I remember, and this didn't necessarily go exactly how I thought it would go, but I remember in one game, an NPC died. And me as a player, I wanted to know how the other players thought, what their character was thinking about, and how they felt about the death of this character. So I remember saying, like, okay, I really want to know how your character feels about this person's death. I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't use names. And I put it in front, I think I put it in front of 2 or 3 different characters in different intervals. Yeah. And, you know, some of the people didn't totally hook onto it, and it was okay. But some of the players were like, yeah, you know, like almost had like an inner dialogue, but they vocalized it openly. Our characters didn't hear it. But us as people, as players at the table, got to experience that thought process to kind of elevate the storytelling, which I thought was interesting. We haven't explored it again since, because it feels a little bit pointed to be like, go, run with this, talk about it. But who knows? Maybe we'll see as we get better at this.
Yeah, the use of it is kind of limitless. It's what you make. Like just before this video, I was saying maybe we should make actual totems with I want it written on it. I want to talk about something, or I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, right? It's just basically using an indicator of willingness, like I said before. Anything else we should talk about for deviations?
There was one more. You touched on it briefly, but it was having pufferfish moments with an NPC.
As the game master, I am allowed to have the pufferfish moment.
Yeah, or if there's a particularly interesting NPC that my character wants to have a pufferfish moment with, it can be a way to help show everybody at the table, like, hey, I really have a thought that I want to kind of get to the end. It might not be obvious from the very beginning, because sometimes, you know, you might be like my character Diedrich in the Blood and Betrayal campaign plays he's a nervous guy. He doesn't always get straight to the point. So I found myself sometimes when I was talking to an NPC, I was obviously beating around the bush, and another character would come up and beat me to the punch, and it was okay.
An example of this is just to maybe put it, because that's a good way of putting it. In, let's say you go and you talk to someone at a bar, and they're at the table, and you want to engage with them and maybe kind of sweet talk them a little bit, and then so build a relationship and then ask for a favor.
Yeah.
And as you're doing this, other people are cross talking, or they exactly what you said, they want to ask it, so they just come and ask it, and you're like, well, I had a cool idea, right? And do the actual role play. Well, this puts a hold on everybody and say, I'm trying to go somewhere here.
And obviously, I'm not saying abuse it. Don't be like, I'm going to have a 30-minute conversation with this NPC. No. But, you know, if it takes you a minute to get to your point, that's okay, because it might. Ideally, you're making this pufferfish moment to create a cool story plot element. So maybe you're going to reveal a secret about yourself to this NPC so that they reveal one back to you. But in real life, you're not going to walk up to a stranger and be like, "Hey, my parents died in a fire." Like you're gonna build up to that. Yeah. So anyway, I think I'm talking in circles, but that is another way to do it. Have a PC to NPC moment.
Yeah. So I think by this time should have a pretty decent idea of what we're trying to do here. What we're doing. So how can you start incorporating this in your game? Obviously, you probably already have an idea of it, but I would encourage you to take it a step at a time.
Yeah, kind of incrementally.
Yeah. So what would be the first step?
Well, so the first step, I think, is, as usual, when it comes to roleplay, to have a conversation with everybody at the table. Really talk to the people there. Say, look, guys, we want to bring forward... I would like to bring forward this concept of having pufferfish moments.
You can even send them this video, or the short version will be releasing next week.
Yeah. Please do. And what was I going to say? And have that talk, and then maybe encourage people at the table to think about what they want their pufferfish moments to be ahead of time. You know, you kind of know where you're going. Maybe last game there was an interesting situation that happened. Something caught fire. You're in a dungeon. You fought a cool monster. So the players already have some context, some events to use as inspiration for a pufferfish moment. So I might go up to a character and say, hey, my character and your character haven't really had a chance to talk yet. Why don't we have a pufferfish moment to talk about that monster you defeated?
Yeah, and that's really good to bring new people to your table in the way, like in your role-playing universe, is to basically prep them before the game and say, this thing, we'll use them together in that situation. So whenever you feel comfortable, or whenever I see a moment for it to happen, I will engage you about the monster you killed. Are you cool with that? Think about what you want to say. And that's really good to ease people in, and still use it, because you have to use it to kind of build a habit of doing it. And then once you've done that a couple of games, you end up not having to talk about it before, and just you build those relationships where you can just, when is a good time for pufferfish.
Yeah, so that's kind of the second step, right? And that's kind of where we found ourselves for a pretty long time, where it was, we knew when to use them, so we'd go ahead and use them and pick them up, give them to somebody else, and just start talking. I wonder, let's go to the final stage, and then we should prompt each other to talk about when to use them, because I'm not sure we did that yet.
Okay. So the last stage is, I mean, I don't want to say it's negatively, but it's a crutch, right? It's a way to show the structure. At one point, you won't need those. We found that we used them for, I don't know, a couple of months, and then after that, people weren't really grabbing them, but we're still really attentive, because we build that, we train.
The habit is there, right?
Yeah.
If my character approaches another character and talks about something kind of intense, we're having a pufferfish moment without necessarily grabbing the pufferfish.
Right now, we're experimenting with those deviation we're talking about, so we're putting them back in the game to close the scenes and stuff like that. But again, once this becomes a habit, we won't need those.
So that's kind of the progression that we hope to do with our pufferfish moments, and we hope you get the opportunity to try. I would encourage you to do it. Like I said, we talked a little bit about when to have pufferfish moments. I wonder, Chris, if maybe we can rattle off a couple of examples of situations where we saw benefit. We already touched a little bit about it, but
I think sometimes in, let's say right now we're kind of in a dungeon crawly place. Let's say you're in a dungeon crawl. It's very exploration, and it's very fight oriented. So you fight, let's say you have rooms. You fight in a room, and then you explore the other room, maybe do some lockpicking check or whatever. Well, whenever you are after a fight, for me, it's kind of a no-brainer that there should be a pufferfish moment. Someone killed something, someone saw something, someone got hurt. There's something that happened most of the time that maybe needs some reflecting on. Or, when you came next to me to help me do this thing, thank you for backing me up. Or, there's something to do there. And having a scene is important, and not just go to the next fight and go to the next room.
And so combat is definitely a great source of inspiration for things to talk to other players about. Something too that we've started really getting used to doing is having pufferfish moments throughout travel.
Yeah.
So whenever there's travel or kind of like downtime, pufferfish moments are a great thing to kind of fill that emptiness. So you're going from one city to the next, presumably to do something, presumably to kill a monster, fight evil villain, burn down a layer of goblins. I don't know. That's pretty intense stuff. If I was going to do that, I would be nervous, maybe excited, and blah, 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 blah. I would have feelings about this. Mm-hmm. So through the travel, why not talk to another character and be like, are we really ready to go burn down the goblin lair? Have that conversation. Or if you're a fighter who loves to do this kind of stuff, well, maybe you can be excited and you can express that excitement. Or if you have, actually, even better, if you have someone in your party who you know is excited about this, let them talk about it. Have a pufferfish moment with them.
Yes, and what I usually do when we are having this travel, I kind of have a scene where I pair up the players, and I, as an NPC, are kind of like the person who, if there's NPCs, I can complete the pairs. Uh-huh. But I see it as people walking 2x2s, and I'm starting at the end of the line. 2 people are having a scene, and then I back out, and I have the other 2 and the other 2, and it's sometimes it creates a great scene, whether it's 3 pufferfish moments if you're 6, one after the other. It takes, most of the pufferfish moments are like, what, a minute? Not even?
Yeah, they're not, excuse me.
Some of them are 4 minutes, but some of them are really short. It creates a cool scene where you imagine, like, I don't know, in Lord of the Rings, as you move through the different people and the party having different discussion, and it's fun.
I wonder, Chris, are there moments in our game right now where you think we should do them? Like there is a missed opportunity, and I'd like to maybe reflect on it and answer as well. But
I think the thing that popped right in my head when you said that is, at the end of the night, people are more tired, and sometimes I see that pufferfish moment kind of die out a little bit, because even though there's reveals that happen at the beginning of the game, people like take them left and right, and sometimes it's about the time they spent reflecting between 2 games. They thought, oh, it was cool last week. Oh, my character should talk about it. Yeah, so usually what happened now is, at the beginning of the game, we have almost half an hour of roleplay, of just unless we start in a fight, but a lot of talking is happening in like reflecting and people are like super into it. I give like inspiration points, and it's great. At the end of the night, sometimes people are a bit more tired. And I think that's a place for improvement for our group, where maybe to even this out, not spend half an hour doing it, keep our cards a little bit just to use it later in the night, to pace it out a little bit more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. How about you? Did you think of something?
I'm not sure exactly how well this fits into this, but something that I want to try to work on myself, and I'd like to see, is pufferfish moments. Like right now, because I've had pufferfish moments more with some characters than others, my brain immediately, it's almost exponential, right? If you have a pufferfish moment with someone, you get more stuff that you can reflect on, and it just kind of becomes easier and easier. And
you kind of build a relationship, character to character.
Yeah, so I think something that I'd like to challenge myself to do is start to flex my brain again and think of like, okay, what are maybe the less obvious things to talk to other characters about, to try to build relationships with them. And it's maybe going to be a little confrontational, but I think that's where it has to start, right? If these characters have been adventuring together for this amount of time, and we don't actually know anything about each other of substance, it might be time for me to be like, look, why do you keep doing this? Why don't we know this about you? Or tell me, you can trust me, I've got your back, like something like that. I'm a little bit worried that it might create not a cycle of negative emotions between these characters, but I think it needs to be, like we said, in a microcosm where I talk to those people beforehand and say, look, I'm going to say something to your character. It might be a little bit confrontational, but it's with the intention to bring our characters closer together. And I think that's something that I would like to try to do, and I would like to see other people do and work on. It's obviously not easy.
Yeah, maybe go back to the basics to include everybody, because I think we were, the 3 of us, Vince, you and I, kind of pushed this a little bit. Not push in terms that they didn't want to. It's just we're the one who were actively really trying to use them more and more and more. And then people join us.
Yeah.
But maybe not... they're reflecting on the actual events, but maybe not the events that happened before. anyway, it's just it needs to be happening more and more to build that relationship.
Yeah, and it feels weird. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to go and talk to someone about something that happened too long ago. You know, like we've faced things since then that I think overshadow or are more front of mind. So it's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be a challenge. But I
welcome
think
it.
I welcome it.
I agree with you that it might be more confrontational, but maybe the key here it might be to wait for a moment to happen for this interaction to start about you caring about how they feel. So maybe they get hurt in combat, and that's kind of your gate to open. Like you say, it's confrontational. It's because you were saying like let's confront them about not talking enough in character.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way to be more like supportive, following difficult events. And but maybe you need to be patient that this thing happens though.
That's the thing is I'm worried that, and maybe it's a silly worry to have. Like I'm sure if I think hard enough in game, there's bound to be a moment where someone almost dies because a monster swings at them or something. But I guess I'm thinking more of like I maybe it's wrong of me to think of this, but I'd like to try to fast track that to get to the same level as I am with Ludolf, with Vince's character. But
how about if you, because in a relationship is two ways, right? You need to open up to someone else. So maybe instead of open up to the person who you have a relationship and would make sense, maybe Ludolf knows a lot about you.
Yeah.
You could try to find an angle where you want to open up to one of the other ones, and then after that build this, and out of character, out of the game, say please engage with me on this, and then we'll do your character later when you feel more comfortable. I don't know. We're spitballing here. We're role play chatting here.
Yeah, exactly. And admittedly, not that it's not my strength to do that, to walk up to another character and be like, oh wow, this really reminds me of the time in my childhood that this happened and it scarred me forever.
Yeah, well.
Like that's it's hard to do that. And you're right. I think the first step is to really go back to the basics and have a conversation with them as a player and be like, look, like let's try to flesh this thing out between our characters. I'd love to see how we can build our relationship in a positive way.
And it comes back to what we said last episode, when they need to want to. Right? They might not want to. Like the players might not want to. So again, you need to talk to the other players and not ambush them with this thing.
Absolutely.
So that's Pufferfish Moments. We covered a lot of it. Obviously, there's details we could continue talking about on and on. But for now, that's going to be it. And I hope you liked it. I really, really encourage you to try it out, even if it's silly. Maybe at least talk to your players. It doesn't need to be pufferfish. Just try to incorporate this structure in your roleplay, unless you're professional actors or you've been playing for 15 years. Sometimes that's what's happening, right? It's a way to accelerate getting familiar to the other player type of roleplay.
Yeah.
This is really good to do it. So this, maybe you don't need it, but I have an inkling that it would be helpful to almost every table.
Yeah, and a caveat that we didn't mention before, having pufferfish moments at your table doesn't mean that you remove the crosstalk and other forms of roleplay that happen. That's going to keep living on. It kept living on in our games. It just, when we wanted to have a spotlight moment, the pufferfish allowed us to do that. So like Chris said, we really encourage you to use this regardless of what level you find yourself at. And actually, I'd love to know if you guys have other solutions that are similar or that have allowed you to learn and become better role players. So if you do have those kinds of things that you want to share with us, please do comment down below or reach out to us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @role_play_chat.
Or we have an email, that's contact@roleplaychat@gmail.com. And please, if you try it, let us know about the experience, positive or negative. We really want to know, because I mean, our data set is us. So we'd love to know how it's going on in your game.
Awesome. So that's everything for Pufferfish Moments, right, Chris?
That's all, Matt.
Let's call it a chat.